Welcome back to Singapore Tonight. Thank you for staying with us. Singapore Art Week kicks off in just 10 days, and this year the festival is going beyond the traditional art fairs and gallery exhibitions. Organisers have promised more variety, such as installations and documentaries that have been inspired by tradition and our heritage.
Here to share more on their works for the Singapore Art Week, we're joined by Eric Lim, Director of Documentary Memories of Singapore River, as well as Kay Vasey, Founder and Chief Connecting Officer of non-profit organisation, the MeshMinds Foundation, which will be putting up an immersive and interactive artwork focusing on sustainability. Eric, I'll come to you first to just ask you about this documentary that you're showcasing, Memories of the Singapore River. Tell us a bit more about, what's in it.
So it's a Chinese Mandarin documentary with an English subtitle. Basically, it's a document about Singapore artists, living artists, and through their eyes about the art and history of Singapore River.
Why did you decide to focus on their particular stories, Eric?
Okay, it was very interesting when I started doing my research, and I found that there's a lacking of documentary on living artists, our pioneer artists in Singapore, and it inspired me. Can't wait to make a story of their stories, and I realized that Singapore River is very significant and is very important for Singaporean, and a lot of artists have been painting Singapore River, and so these three major artists, which is Lim Ziping, the Chinese art painting artist, and oil painting artist Tan Cho Ti, and also the watercolor painting Liu Pei Hua. They are the pioneer artists who have been frequently visit Singapore River and non-stop painting all the manifestation scenes in their masterpiece.
They've captured pieces and images of life along the Singapore River that
in the 1970s, 80s, that was very significant.
Yeah. And Kay, your piece is, as described, immersive and interactive. Tell us what that means and what can people expect to see when they come to it?
Lots of wonderful things, both focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, using virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D printing, and Internet of Things.
Okay, so it's a very technologically driven.
Yes, definitely. We always start with the art, and then we apply that technology layer to it. And through that, we hope to increase engagement and empathy, and hopefully get more responses to the calls to action that are all of our responsibility today. We're really trying to focus on global challenges, but from an Asian perspective, and working with the wonderful students at the Salle College of Arts. It's wonderful.
And why sustainability?
It's high on the agenda these days. It's really, really important that we all play a part, every single one of us. Not to say that it's somebody else's problem. It's not on my doorstep. We're not the worst polluters. We all have a role to play. So I'm really, really grateful that the National Arts Council is looking at these types of projects and thinking, forward thinking. Yes. So how can we apply technology? How can we raise awareness? How can we raise action towards important topics? Also, remember to look back and think about the memories of the past as well. That's how we go forward. We always remember the history and then go forward from there. So in that sense, it's really important that we look at our planet as something that we need to preserve. Perhaps through creative technology, we're able to achieve this.
Using that creative technology, Kay, was it very difficult at all or challenging to get all those elements together for the art?
Well, for example, people like Autodesk threw open their doors to the Salle students. They went down to, learn about 3D printing and then came back with these wonderful ideas. So in that sense, yes, it's not easy just to say, oh, I'm just going to pick it up myself. There needs to be some guidance, but there are wonderful people out there that provide these opportunities. We can then grow with those opportunities, and as long as we can nurture these young talents to kind of think about, yes, you could go out there and kind of make zombie games and things like that if you want, but if you want to become an impact artist, you want to tell stories in a really impactful way about the sustainable development of people on our planet, you can as well.
And I suppose, Eric, bringing that back to the Singapore River and sustainability, Singapore River has been sort of quite unique in that it sort of has in recent times almost been able to sustain more fish life in it, and we've seen otters now in the Singapore River coming back to it as well. So I guess in sort of showcasing the Singapore River as part of the art, it is perhaps an example of sustainability.
Well, I think so. I feel that the river is very important, as all of us especially younger generations, they have been not growing up with the Singapore River history so much on that. And it's very important for us to actually start doing some documentary and archiving, especially I like it because to the artist's perspective. And in fact, in the documentary film, we created an animation from the artist's masterpieces and make it more interesting, appealing to the young generations. I think so. Yeah.
So art is, it touches everybody in a different way, and we perceive it in a different way. What impressions did it leave on you, just going through the work and all of the actual the steps that it must have taken to get all of this together?
You know, what really surprised me is that I learned things along the way. I didn't know that in 2016, Singapore was actually voted #1 in the world for light pollution. And one of the wonderful artists, Yashini Ranganathan, has focused on exactly that. So she's decided through her, Autodesk 3D modelling and all that wonderful stuff, she said, I'm going to go out with my light meter and I'm going to go to Marina Bay and I'm also going to go to Punggol, and then I'm going to gather that data into a 3D modelling program, and then I'm going to 3D print the outcome. And then that's a visualization. It's, you can see it, this very high and spiky, this one's much lower, you can touch it, it's all of that kind of like tactile interactivity, making you really think differently, in a different way, because I could just look and I could show you endless graphs on 2D pieces of paper and be like, oh look, isn't Singapore, #1 for the worst light pollution, all that stuff. But when you can see it and you can touch it, and you can kind of, in relation to other things, other real-world objects, it really brings it home and it stays with you. So, sadly, there is nowhere in Singapore where you can be in total darkness. And that has a massive effect on the flora and fauna and ourselves in terms of sleep patterns and all that kind of stuff. She's raised awareness of something that I wasn't even aware of. So through that process, isn't that fantastic as well?
When you can visualise the issue through art, you gain better understanding. Thank you so much for coming into the studios to share all of that with us. Eric Lim, the director of the documentary Memories of the Singapore River, and Kay Vasey, founder and chief connecting officer of non-profit organisation the MeshMinds Foundation. You can catch their works during the Singapore Art Week, which takes place from the 19th to the 27th of January.